Fight fans talking about Carl Cruz MMA. Got a guest, been want to talk to for a while now. Finally been able to make it happen. He's returning to action in the UFC February 7th. He is Mr. Julius Walker, Mr. Juicebox. What's going on, brother?
Dude, just chilling, man. How about yourself?
Not much, man. So you're getting ready. Another big fight coming up. Coming off of your first win. You still carrying that momentum into this one?
100%, man. It was good to get 15 minutes in the octagon in my last fight, and I'm confident going into this one. You know, I got some more experience. We're 6 months down the line, so I got another really good chunk of time in between fights, and I'm ready to start rattling them off a little faster this year.
Absolutely, man. Obviously, you've been in this world of combat sports for a while now. A lot of people are watching it in this day and age. Very few people understand what it's like to be a professional fighter, right? I think they see the big names, the Joneses, the Cormiers, the Habibs. They say the fame, the fortune, the girls, the spotlight, and they're like, this is amazing. When you're battling out on the regional scene, man, you're not making Conor McGregor money. You're waking up early, you're staying up late, you're working all these different jobs, grinding out just maybe for the opportunity to get to the biggest platform in the world. You've made it, but you're still grinding out every single day to keep this going. What's made you want to stick with this journey?
Dude, for one, man, it's really the opportunity of a lifetime. You know what I mean? It's like what I get to go chase after each day. It's just something that's, I don't know. I'm going after something bigger than myself, and the fact that I've got to try to wake up and strive to be great and push as hard as I can. Truly be in competition with others. It's the ultimate form of competition, and I'm a super competitive person. So, and you know, there's not a lot of other things I think I could have made myself competitive about. That's how I'm used to approaching everything in life, just because I grew up as an athlete. So, like, the ability to still have that competition in my life, that's the biggest thing that's kept me in it. And you know, with this fight, like, it's super important in the UFC that first contract, you have to prove that you're worth keeping around. So this fight, I got to go out there and do that.
Do you feel that fighting is more mental than it's physical?
100%, on some level. Obviously, like, man, I like that question, actually. I would say the biggest mental aspect of it is you just have to believe in yourself as a person and yourself physically. I think that you can overcome certain physical challenges, but if you truly have, like, if you're truly caught up mentally, then it's going to be really hard to perform. Now, the thing is, if you've got a guy that's just a complete monster, that's a little bit weak mentally versus somebody that's not very athletic, against somebody that's strong mentally, the monster still might win. But I do think I would lean that it's more mental. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So earlier last year, you were getting ready. You were going to take on Mark Courier, and all of a sudden you got a phone call that you're going to be fighting Alonzo Menafield on short notice. Where were you at when you got that phone call that you were finally being signed?
Dude, I was in the parking lot of the pizza place because I had just been eating pizza. The Mark Courier fight was at heavyweight, and I found out. I was like, "Hey, can you make weight next weekend?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure thing."
Absolutely. And what was that experience like? Obviously, taking that fight on short notice, seeing all the bright lights of the UFC, getting on a big card. What was that experience like?
Dude, it was wild. The whole UFC Fight Week experience, especially coming from the regional scene and never experiencing anything like that, is pretty wild. Like, you know, I fly in and there's somebody with a suit with my name on a little sign when I get there, and it says the UFC logos on the bottom of it. Picking up my luggage and riding over in a little Escalade, you know, to the host hotel. And, like, even, you know, we got there Tuesday night because I had to go do some medical stuff beforehand, and we got there Tuesday night. Wednesday, it was like, you get gear every time. You get, like, your fight kit and some gear, and, like, that was super cool. I remember me and my coach were like, dude, this is so cool. And there's the whole, that time I got to do, like, a media day and pictures and all sorts of stuff. So it was super cool walking out in front of a crowd like that. There's definitely nothing like that. Like, the Shrine Mosque atmosphere here in my hometown, where I fought a lot of my regional fights, is actually pretty good. But 18,000 people, man, it's a pretty wild thing. And just the biggest difference, I would say, is just how much, like, it's almost like there's more clamoring. I don't know if that's the right word, but the fans are literally like clamoring at the UFC event. Like they're freaking hype. Every single one of them that's there. So it's a man. There's the whole fight week experience in Seattle was awesome, and I thought Seattle was a cool place too. So that was a bonus.
Absolutely. Last time out, you got a fight in the Apex.
Mm-hmm.
Cool thing about the Apex, a little smaller of the cage, more symbolic of the ones on the regional scene. How did you like that atmosphere?
Dude, it's very different in terms of how quiet it is. Obviously, like even from almost anything I did on the regional scene. I mean, there's the Apex. I feel like it resembles some of the convention centers that you fight in. The room is just significantly smaller, and there's not a lot of people in there, so it is really quiet. I like the small cage just because you're just close together in general, so you have to engage, and that's typically how I like to fight. So. Um, I enjoy that aspect of it. Obviously, a crowd's nice, but and especially I mean, fighting in front of 18, 20,000. I'm hoping for more of those. Honestly, I think the coolest atmosphere to get on is whenever you get to be on a card that is a fight night somewhere that hasn't had UFC fights in 12 years like Seattle had whenever I fought there, because it's like it's hype. Everyone felt like everybody knew that there was fights that weekend. People were excited. There was like a buzz, even just walking around Seattle, which you don't quite really get in Vegas, just because it's Vegas. Um, but yeah, dude, it's interesting.
A lot of people obviously really excited for some fights. We haven't had any fights in like a month right now. We're getting ready. Paramount, no more pay-per-views, no more having to go to B-dubs to watch the fights. A lot of people are expecting a lot more eyeballs on it. The product's more accessible now. What do you think of this deal? How do you think this whole Paramount thing is going to affect the sport?
I think I think it's gonna be a net positive. Like I'm hoping like it means that there's going to be more time spent in arenas and they're going back on tour more. If you look at the schedule, it's looking like the Apex is like a once a month thing now. So it's like the majority of events are not in the Apex anymore. It looks like there's probably only going to be like 10 of those a year versus your 14 pay-per-views, and then maybe that means there would be maybe like 20 fight nights on the road now. And I mean, apparently the Apex, because Zuffa Boxing is going to be in the Apex, so I think the Apex is going to get upgraded. I've seen stuff pertaining to that, and I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen with that. But I think the Paramount deal is going to be a net positive. It's definitely more eyes. It's definitely more accessible, especially if you're a champion too. So it's good stuff.
Absolutely. One thing, if anyone watches you fight, realize you're a very well-rounded 205er. Obviously, the striking's there. Wrestling, the grappling is there as well. From the get-go, has that always been the goal to strive for?
Yeah, and it's interesting for me because I came in with no background. So whenever I was learning, it was just like, oh, wow, I'm learning all this stuff. And luckily, I sucked at everything. So I got to improve at it equally. It's not like I knew how to wrestle at first or anything like that.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but before this, you were like a basketball dude that found MMA?
Yeah, man, I was playing college basketball. I stopped playing after 2 years. And, I was an MMA fan. I wanted to sign up and do jujitsu and lose some weight. And I went to a couple MMA classes. It was fun. I was 20, so I was like, let's do an amateur fight. And then I had that fight and I did not stop. After that fight, I was definitely all in. It's like, man, this is what I want to do.
Absolutely. Obviously, playing basketball, a little different doing MMA, but from the competition side, getting ready for the big games, the training, the nutrition, that help ease your way into MMA?
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. College basketball, I think, definitely helped me in the competition side of MMA. MMA is different though, just because the competition to practice ratio is extremely different. So you have to learn to view training a little bit differently, and almost turn training into an aspect of competition. For me, it's like sparring every Friday. That would have been the game that I played each week whenever I was a basketball player. Because that's in college. In college you play 2 or 3 times a week. So it's so that, that's kind of what I how I think of it now. But man, it definitely helped.
You know, one thing I love about mixed martial arts is the values and morals that are associated with the sport. You know, I've had guys on this show tell me when they first got into this, they're going down a bad path. They didn't have anything. This provided guidance structure. For you, how have you grown involved from combat sports?
Man, it's done a lot for me in terms of like when I came into fighting, I was barely I just turned 20. My first daughter was on the way, and before that, I'd just been playing college ball and being a goober. So I yeah, being a goober. So it definitely over time, I don't want to say it did initially because I had to still grow up, but it's almost like I've grown up in the sport. And over time, it's just kind of shaped how I've had to approach things because at this point now it is my career. So it's a big aspect of just how I approach life in general. And it's definitely taught me a lot about work ethic and consistency. And I've definitely taken that a step further, few steps further than I did when I played basketball. So it's been really good for me.
You know, so many people are watching the sport now, and I think for the most part, they understand that you're trying to train to get fights, get bigger fights, to win belts, and all that stuff. I
Hmm.
think very few people understand the fight outside the fight. To me, that's that fight not to have to clock in at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock out at 5. That's that fight to secure financial freedom. That's that fight to live life on your terms, not follow societal norms. Do something you want with this life and have an effect on people. For you, is this a big part of the journey?
100%. That's. I mean, at the end of the day, that's. I wouldn't do this for free, you know. And it's one of those things where you get to a point where you've put so much time into it for so little financial gain. And I've got a wife and kids, so when you have people depending on you, furthermore. And the thing with fighting is, it is one of those things where it sounds crazy, but it is 100% possible. The biggest thing that I've learned as far as that goes is the number one thing you have as a fighter is your platform. So if you just invest into that and take the time to grow that, the financial opportunities improve greatly. And you grow your platform, and it's worth it for different promotions and people to bring you on and have you on, especially if you can at least somewhat back it up in the cage. So that's definitely the biggest motivation is grow the platform and gain that financial freedom. But at the end of the day, it's still the pursuit of competition because I don't want to get to the point where I get there and I lose the competition. At that point, you got to stop fighting.
You know, for you at this stage of the career, what's the ultimate goal?
The world title, 100%. If that's if anyone's fighting especially in the UFC, and that's not their goal, and they're under the age of like 35, it's, I guess, yeah, the 35 curse. I've seen that thing on social media. But if you're under 35 and you're in the UFC and you're not chasing the title, what are you doing? You're on your way out, that's for sure.
What do you want your kids to take away from this journey?
The biggest thing is just that it I don't you could say it sounds cliche, but if you commit to just pushing yourself and focusing on the process of what it is that you're doing rather than maybe the results that you're getting at that time, um, you have a much greater chance of being successful. And then also find something that you enjoy doing and figure out how to do it as much as you can. Find people that you enjoy spending time with, spend as much time with them as you can.
Absolutely. If someone looks at your topology, I mean, you're no stranger to fighting guys with a lot of experience. I mean, multiple
Mhm.
times in the regional scene, you fought guys with more wins than you've had fights. Now you're fighting on your third veteran in the UFC. Made debut against Alonzo Menifield, a guy that a lot of people know and really respect. For you, fighting these top guys like this really reinforce that you belong here and you belong with the best in the world.
100%. It was nice to come into the UFC. It's interesting. I always tell my buddies that right now that are trying to get into the UFC, one thing I always tell them is no matter who you fought before you were in the UFC, you'll get to the UFC, and 90% of people will say things like that you had only fought cab drivers. But like it's like before I fought in the UFC, the three dudes I fought were, one of them was on the Ultimate Fighter and a D1 wrestler. One of them was a UFC veteran, and then one of them was Ultimate Fighter and Glory Kickboxer. So like, they had all had high level experience. We're all veterans, and I was super young in the game. That was my second year as a pro, because like the Niall Bartling fight, which was my fourth pro fight, in the the D1 wrestler, Ultimate Fighter veteran. That was like 14 months after my pro debut. So I when fighting those guys and getting those results, it in my head just like solidified everything. It made me be like, dude, I've gotta chase this thing. And then boom, the UFC fight happened. It was wild because going into the beginning of 2025, I remember like my goal is to get on Contender Series and then make my UFC debut at the end of the year. And then in freaking February, I got into the UFC. It was a crazy experience.
If someone were to tell you when you were playing college basketball that you were going to be a UFC light heavyweight, would have you believed them?
Dude, you know, honestly, I was totally that guy that would like wrestle with whoever at a at the hangout, or like was totally down to if somebody had gloves and was like, "Hey, do you want to box?" I totally was down to do it. I was, and I would jokingly say that I was gonna do MMA or do and like fight. You know, so yeah, I might have believed it.
There you go. You know, I mentioned this day and age, there's so many eyeballs watching it. You mentioned a big thing now is you have this platform. Social media is such a prevalent thing. So when you're either on Instagram, you're on X, Facebook, at the fights, you hear a lot of crazy stuff and you see a lot of crazy stuff now. You know, we hear this term twist them and you know what? You read all these crazy takes, you hear these crazy takes. Overall, what do you think of all this stuff from the casual fans in this day and age?
As a fighter, I think it's really important that you don't take it super duper seriously. Because like whenever I first got in, you know, whenever you're on the come up, you don't get very much negativity at all. It's your like friends and family watching you. Or for me, I was fighting in my hometown. You know, like I had 4 out of my first 6 pro fights were in my hometown. So like, you know, you get to when you get to the UFC and you start getting exposed to, you know, the ups and downs, the negativity, all the different things that comes into play with the like social media side of things. You just can't take it too seriously. And you have to understand that at the end of the day, 9% of it's all in good fun. Like 99% of it is people that like at the end of the day, like they might say you suck on Twitter. Like they might say Julius Walker sucks, but like they wouldn't meet me and be like, "Oh, dude, you suck." Like they'd be like, "Oh, what's up, man?" You know, like it's not a real interaction. Like it's, you know, it's somebody posting online that you suck. So you can't take it too seriously. You have to understand that it's all in good fun. And at the end of the day, like everybody can be won over. It's 100% possible. Lots of fighters have done it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned before you started doing MMA, you were doing basketball. So one thing I want to do now, if we could assemble a starting 5, but UFC basketball squad with a coach, who are we picking on the team? So we're going to start off at 1. Who do we got playing the 1?
Phil Rao. Or no. CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan.
Okay. Who do we got at 2?
Phil Rao.
Who do we got at 3?
Juicebox.
Who we got at 4?
Cyril Gahn.
5.
AJ Fry, the new heavyweight. He was another college hooper.
And then who's coaching it?
DC. You have to have DC coach it. You have no choice.
There you go. It seems like you put thought in that one before.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Before we wrap up here, one thing I want to do, I want to go through some of these big fights coming up. I want to get your predictions, who's going to win some of these big matchups. So we got a banger coming back. We co-main event, Kayla Harrison, Amanda Nunes. We've been wanting to see this for so long. It's finally here. Who wins it?
Man, dude, Amanda's been out for long enough to where I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison. If Amanda Nunes had been active for the last however many years, I'd probably be picking her, but it's real hard. I can't imagine not fighting for multiple years and coming back and fighting for a world title. And I would love to know the stats on how often people have succeeded, because I can't think of anybody other than GSP that's been out for like years at a time and or Dom Cruz. GSP and Dom Cruz were that, but I can't think of anybody else that was away for years and won a world title.
No, the main event that night, an absolute banger. You got Justin Gaethje, Patty Pimblett. Who wins it?
Patty gets a rear naked choke. It's happening. It's probably happening.
The week after that one, they're going to Australia with a huge main event. Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopez, too. Who wins this time around?
You know, I could see Diego pulling this one off. The last time out, I took Volk, but I could see Diego pulling it off. I think that Diego is still earlier in the game enough. I know he has a lot of pro fights, but he's still young enough, especially when compared to Volk, and his experience level in the UFC and at like fighting this level of opposition is still early enough. And I think maybe he can employ some like wrestling or something. You know, he can mix it up. He can take a slightly different approach this time and get the fight, get the win.
Now, the main event, the card that you're on, Mario Bautista, Vinicius Oliveira. Who wins that one?
Dude, honestly, dude, the Oliveira guy, I've watched his fights in the UFC. That dude is good, like, and his fights are fun. Bautista's solid too, but I could see Oliveira getting the win, but I could also see just the way that Oliveira fights. I could see Bautista ending up winning a decision, and I also, for some reason, feel like Bautista's style is going to hold up better over 5 rounds. But man, that's a really good matchup for my official pick. I'm going with Mario Bautista.
Absolutely. All right, but the last one we're going to do here, big one in March. You got Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira. Who wins this one?
Max, dude. I would pick Max against anyone just because that was like he was one of my favorite fighters, you know, from early on. Like I was like, dude, this guy's so awesome. Like I was in high school whenever he was early when he was coming up in the UFC when he was going on the super long win streak. And yeah, I would pick Max against anyone, but in reality, I do think that he wins the striking exchanges and is able to keep it on the outside and is a solid enough defensive grappler to not get rear naked choked.
Surely, you know, we just mentioned some of the biggest names in the sport. Obviously, you're a big fight fan in addition to being a fighter. Does this stuff pump you up? Do you get motivation off of the big guys and watching the big fights?
Dude, 100%. And I really think that all fighters that aren't there should. Like, whenever after I got signed and fought, you know, Metafield in February of last year, and then the first time I ever got to go to UFC event, I had a sponsor take me to 313 for Pereira and Kalaev 1. So I was there on the floor for that pay-per-view. And I just remember like the takeaways from me was, man, if you're going to be on a card like that, you definitely want to be on the main card. It'll be cool either way, but if you're on the main card, it's actually packed. And then the others was like, yeah, you want to be on a card like that. You want to main event that thing. You know what I mean? It was super dope. It was super cool to be there. I remember watching that and also seeing the title fight for my weight class. Like, this is the standard for me as a fighter. These guys right here. And you know that was awesome, and I think that's what every fighter that isn't at the top should be thinking and aiming for.
You know, you're in quite a weight class. Obviously, in my opinion, one of the golden standards of mixed martial arts. All the great names in that weight class. Got DC, Shogun Hua, Lyoto Machida. My opinion, the greatest fighter ever. John Jones, the king of that for a very long time. You got Alex Pereira in there now killing it. All of these names. How cool is it for you to be in that division?
Dude, it's super cool. It was all like growing up. I always was hoping that I was going to be a big guy. So, you know, and I was always a big kid. So, like, then like when John Jones won the title, I think I was 12, you know, 11 or 12. And that, like, the 205 division, I think historically it's one of the best, but obviously over the last few years, like, there's almost been a little bit of a lull since John Jones left. Obviously, Pereira's came through and brought star power, but now apparently he might be leaving the division. And at the end of the day, he's pretty old anyway, so he's probably retiring before too long. Most of the top 15 are older guys anyway, so a lot of new guys. It's time for some new guys to come through and do some cool shit and take over and, restore the 205 division to its glory days, because everyone, that used to be the premier division. Now I think if you really asked, it would be, if you ask people, it's like the lightweight division. You know, that's the premier division, or the 135 division. Like, those divisions have the most elite fighters now. So we've got to restore 205 to its glory. So I've got to get way better at MMA and do that.
You know, recently you've been on the West Coast. You've been in Vegas training at Extreme Couture. What was that like?
Dude, it's awesome. I love training out there. I love going to Vegas because of the PI It's one of those places for cross training. You can actually go there. It's probably cheaper to go there than anyone else because it's Vegas. It's very it's one of those places that they make it relatively cheap to get there because you're supposed to spend a lot of money once you get there. But luckily, like we have the PI, so for me, if I'm smart about it, I barely have to spend any money on anything, any kind of food or anything. So, that aspect of it is really sweet. And the guys at Extreme Couture are super, super helpful. Literally all of them. And it's a good environment.
Absolutely. All right, Julius, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome February 7th when you make your return to the UFC?
Dude, just like a vicious knockout. Boom, left hook, KO.
Absolutely. Maybe 50K bonus coming?
Dude, let's go. I've apparently you're not supposed to ask for them though, so you know what I mean. I have to just remember that whenever it's interview time, don't say shit about the bonus.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Julius Walker and Carl Perusa. Mr. Juicebox, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Can't wait to see you fight, man. It's gonna be a good one.
Yes, sir, dude. I appreciate you. I guarantee it'll be a good one.